Hello and welcome to A Day in the Life. I'm your host, Darren Bloomfield. Joining me today is Mike Mancuso from RT Forensic Accountants. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Darren, good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Definitely, yeah. So Mike and I got connected a couple months ago at a RIMS event, RRP in Chicago, and then we hosted one together. So just wanted to circle back and get a better understanding of your career path and time in insurance so far. But before we get started, just had to point out to the super loyal and interested subscriber base of insurance nerds. First video in a year and a half. We had a pretty good run there. 15 videos, 2,500 views. Shout out to Brett Dresner of episode 4, clocking in at 500 views. Don't know why that one was so much, but Mike, let's see how we'll do here. Probably 100, 200 maybe.
No pressure.
No
Big
pressure.
numbies. Big numbies here.
Yeah. Okay. So just a brief rundown of forensic accounting and just kind of how that fits in the insurance industry broadly.
Sure. Yeah. So what we do is claim preparation. So we work directly for the insured. We're engaged mostly majority of the time on a after a loss occurs. We're engaged to help them prepare, calculate, and ultimately manage the claim process. So everything from property damage, business interruption, cyber claims, theft, infidelity, construction, product recall. Any type of claim that requires economic damages, we'll get involved with our clients and really be their trusted expert in calculating their losses and helping them recover funds from the insurance company. And ultimately, the insurance company will hire their own adjustment team. They're an adjuster. The adjuster will hire their own forensic accountants, to work for them, and the two forensic accounting firms will work together to ultimately come up with the right number on what a loss, what the quantum of the loss is.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I think the biggest two things to keep in mind there is first, like the length of time. Like obviously, if put yourself in the insured shoes of them having this loss, something bad, happened, and then you don't want to like drag that out, especially if they need, funds to repair or need funds to like restart and open their business. But then, also like there's multiple parties involved here, so you have to, make sure that everything's being handled, efficiently, but also like effectively. So the time aspect, and then also obviously the cost aspect of what is covered on a policy, how much is going to be paid out, and then just making sure that both sides can align on that. I mean, I feel like it's definitely would be a lot of like negotiation in that. And I mean, I've just on like negotiating, like, a good negotiation is when both sides are maybe like a little unhappy, is kind of the saying I've heard. So do you have any like recent examples of that, or like speaking kind of broadly of type of claim that you've worked on recently, and just kind of like how you guys have assisted in that outcome?
yeah, sure. And a couple things there. I mean, it's a lot of times you're operating in the gray area, right? In a business interruption scenario, the what we're trying to capture is calculating what would have happened but for the loss, right? What were the losses incurred if this event didn't happen? So there's going to be a lot of, to your point, differences in opinion, differences in methodologies on how a business interruption calculation is calculated. There's certainly best practices that everybody sticks to, but there's not always one answer for how to get to the right number. So you're right. There will be a lot of times differences in the end. It's very rare, maybe you know, 99% of the claims will have some level of difference. It's, what we try to do is understand, exactly what is driving those differences, from our calculation versus, the other side's calculation, and, help our client understand, here's where we have really good arguments, maybe take a bucket approach, right? Green, yellow, red. Where's the strongest arguments of the claim? Where is there, okay, there's a little bit of gray area here. Maybe we can spend some more time refining and, providing supporting information to support this part of the claim. And then there's maybe the red area that's could go either way, right? It's super gray. Maybe that's an area where, that ends up being negotiated at the end of the day. But that's kind of an approach we'll take to ensure that clients are looking at their claim holistically, helping them get to a settlement number that they're.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, especially like from the standpoint of like defense costs, like the longer a claim goes on for, the more buildup of defense costs and an overall, if it were to go to court and get like litigated, then really nobody probably knows what's going to happen there. So just trying to keep it getting settled and just kind of moving towards that direction. Is there kind of like uh timeline, or how does that kind of get like set up? Because I would think like from like your firm's perspective, you would probably be working with similar people at the carriers or brokers like over time, so there'd probably be like some rapport there. But what would be like, the advantage of using like the third party versus like the insured trying to I don't necessarily know, like represent themselves in that.
Yeah, no, I think there's a few things we can talk through there. I mean, the timeline itself, I mean, I'll say that's definitely one of the areas that we say we can help the most, right? Is help to streamline and make claims more efficient, right? So we do this for a living. This is pretty much all we do is claims preparation. So we understand what types of information, help a client and help the insurance company, um, support, a loss, support the numbers, support, the claim being made, and ultimately you're presenting a business case, right? So we understand what the other side is looking for and what good information looks like, and by being able to help the insured through that and prepare a claim that's streamlined and delivers all the support and information on a silver platter to the other side. It helps speed up their review. It helps eliminate questions. It really does make that claim process more streamlined. Some other things I'll add to, I mean, kind of in the same light is, we work with, like you said, a lot of the same auditors, in the industry. So, we know what they look for. We'll work with them, right after a loss occurs, and, we're engaged, and the other side is engaged. We'll work with them to proactively come up with, requests for information. What are we looking for to prepare the claim? What are they looking for to adjust the claim? We'll align those two sorts of, information and data requests so that, we can go back to the insured. Okay, here's exactly, we've talked with the other side. We are in agreement on, we need this level of detail to put the claim together, and they're comfortable with that. So that way there's not, two different lists of document requests going around, and really helps to release the burden on the client and their people in pulling, information and chasing down documentation.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's interesting, as far as like the similarities between like that approach and like underwriting of like gathering the information, interpreting the information, and then presenting, the information. So how has like your career journey or previous roles and diverse experiences that you had helped like prepare you for like that kind of like working environment and like skill set?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess, me personally, I started my career in public accounting and in an assurance practice, doing basically audits of Fortune 500 companies, testing controls, and doing substantive tests over, quarterly reports, annual reports. And that in that role, it's very documentation heavy, right? It's substantiating revenue, right? Pulling invoices, contracts, ensuring that that revenue is being, reported correctly at the end of the day. So that's for me, that experience in public accounting and working with multiple different types of companies and different industries, that's translated really well to what we do now. We work with companies in many different industries. Each of them make money a little bit differently. So that crossed over really well. And then just, being able to work with an organization, the people in multiple roles within an organization to get information. With the audit function, you're working with the controller, the CFO, the accounts receivable, people all throughout the organization. And then, same thing goes here. Operations, the CFO, risk management, all are involved in the claim process. So, having that experience and knowing, different people's expectations when it comes to a project and helping them manage those expectations and helping them to manage, their boss's expectations, that's gone a long way. And I think those experiences cross over real nicely.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think the biggest thing you're pointing out is like just making sure that all parties are informed to the extent of like clearly, and you probably do it like periodically, I don't know, like weekly or monthly throughout like the claim to claim resolution process of like updating. I think like that's the biggest thing is just like making sure that the new information you have is being shared to all the parties involved, and then they can, definitely share that information with you guys as well. So I think just kind of like that process. Do you do that like weekly or monthly, or how do you structure that throughout the process as far as like information sharing and like being collaborative like in that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'd say the whole claim process is collaborative, right? So we want to involve the other side. We don't want to keep them in the dark until, every I is dotted and T is crossed. We want to keep them as information's available. We want to get the adjustment team, reviewing it, alongside us. And that makes for a collaborative process. Everyone feels like they're in the loop. It opens up, everybody for questions in real time. And, these losses and these claims can take a really long time, right? A year is not unexpected sometimes for a claim to be resolved. So if you don't have any collaboration, you're not communicating regularly with the other side, status calls and a normal flow of information, interim claim submissions. Things get lost in translation. Information further from the data loss is harder to get, harder to track down, and and to be frank, people are working on different projects too, right? So it's if you're not keeping a regular, consistent communication flow, things over time get lost, and that makes for an inefficient claim process. So what we'll do is, try to have coordinated catch-up calls with, not only the insured, but the adjustment team, all other parties involved, making sure everybody's on the same page of, the current happenings of operations at the insured after post loss, different milestones in the claim process, holding people accountable to those milestones. That's a good process to have in bringing a claim from start to closure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So how does that work as far as like the parties involved of like RT forensic accountants is accountants, right? But then in the process, there's probably a need for like legal or like lawyers kind of like interpreting coverage and also just kind of seeing how the process is going. Like, do you have like who are kind of legal parties like involved? I would think the carrier would probably have some sort of claims counsel legal team. The retail or like the brokers might have that, and then like in the insured might have like general counsel or something of that sort. So how are like those conversations going as well?
Yeah, I think it depends on the loss. Depends on the status of the loss. What's you know generally what happened with that specific project. That'll bring different parties involved. I will say we we work with all of them, right? So from a broker and a carrier perspective, and there's claims advocates involved, right? So we, as forensic accountants, we don't interpret coverage, right? We understand how a policy works. We understand insurance. We understand accounting, and we ultimately present a claim that is in line with the policy, right? But when it comes to interpreting coverage, there's other people involved, claims advocates, legal will get involved. We'll work with them to make sure that the claim is responsive to the coverages in place. But again, we don't interpret coverage. We leave that to the legal teams and the advocates to help us to fit the claim with the language involved in the policy.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yes, and then what would you say? What misconceptions do you think like people would have about like the claims process?
Yeah, I think from my perspective is that, as a forensic accountant, that we're only involved in business interruption portions of the claim, right? To me, it's much more than that. So property damage drives business interruption. You know, you cannot. It's really the trigger for it, right? So, to seclude the forensic accountants to only the business interruption claim, it's nearly impossible to do that, because you have to have a sense of what part of the operations was damaged, what is operating inefficiently because of the loss. So what we'll do is we'll work. We handle both the property damage side and the business interruption side, because they're interrelated as part of the claim. So I think that is a misconception, is that forensic accountants can only work on the business interruption side.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. And to wrap up here, just reflecting on like your own career and also just like putting yourself in perspective of like somebody who's in college or school right now studying, or just generally somebody who would like be interested in like making a career shift. What would be like kind of the advice or opportunity as far as like I think one of the biggest issues with insurance is generally like the lack of awareness of like the opportunity of the career paths available. And then even in that, like as you said, you started in public accounting, and I would think for like people who trying to go down like the CPA route or trying to get more deep into like general accounting, bookkeeping, auditing, like I think what you're doing is more like niche, right? So there's probably not as much awareness. What would you kind of say to somebody like how would they get aware or like know if they would like like that, and how would they like get more prepared to kind of enter into that space?
Yeah, it's agreed. It's different than auditing, different than most types of accounting. It is a little more niche for sure. Um, you know, my favorite thing about it, right, is I get to work with a wide variety of different companies on many different projects. So I'm learning every day about a new industry, how they make money, dealing with new people, from not only on our clients, the insured side, but meeting new people at brokers and from the insurance carriers perspective and the adjustment team. So it is, you're involved with a lot of different people with a lot of different roles, and I feel like that really accelerates your learning into, this industry, and how it operates. But then also too, just the value that we bring to clients, right? It's, not that auditing doesn't bring value to clients, it absolutely does, but it's, to me, it was a little harder to see when you're, a member of an audit team, when a company is required to have, their books audited, every year, every quarter. It almost, and I don't want to, you know, make it sound like it's not a great role, but really, just in this role, we're working with and providing a value add service, and you see at the end of the day how your work and your services, really affect the client. It makes their jobs easier. It affects their bottom line, when they do
Like
make a
you guys
recovery.
get to be
So
the superhero. You guys get to come in, get the claim going. And I think like what you're saying is being able to like meet the client like in that time of need, and then be a part of that process of getting them to a better or different situation. So I think just being able to like see and actually like visualize that just would add some more like meaning and connection to like the actual fruitfulness like of your day-to-day job and role.
yeah, absolutely. The value is a little more easy to quantify and see day to day, and it's rewarding at the end of the day. And clients really appreciate our work and working with us. So at the end of the day, it makes you feel good, makes you want to work hard and help your clients.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for hopping on, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks, Darren.